Joining me is Democratic candidate for Texas's 1st congressional district, currently occupied by Congressman Nathaniel Moran, Dax Alexander. Dax, good to be here with you. How you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Hey, thank you for coming on. Now we'll get to the political issues. We'll get to the political topics shortly, but first, I want to hear about you. Who is Dax Alexander?
Well, I'm local. I've got a story mostly like anybody else out here. Grew up in the area in East Texas. Went to Martins Mill for high school, if anybody knows where that is. You know, small place just south of Canton. Grew up on a dairy farm. Watched a lot of PBS growing up, so when I saw those funding cuts come through, that one really hurt me. After high school life for me was also still in East Texas. I went to UT Tyler, graduated with a computer information systems degree that I'm still using as a software developer. I work remotely. Have broadband access here in Tyler, have fiber access actually in my apartment, so that's something I'd love to see spread to the rest of the district so everyone could have that same opportunity. Went to college on a Pell Grant, also a program that I was very disappointed to see cuts to. And, you know, since graduating, I've been here in East Texas, been recently organizing past 3 or 4 years with the Smith County Democratic Party, currently serve as a vice chair for that organization, and then also vice president for the Smith County Young Democrats, as well as a leading member for our East Texas Coalition, which is a organizing coalition, which is a group of various other orgs that we partner with to help organize events and just kind of share the workload some. So it's been a lot of organizing, you know, staying local and trying to do what I can to make things better.
And talk to me about your career. It's my understanding you're a software engineer.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, sure. So computer information systems degree, once again. Computer science would have been a little bit more geared towards programming, but ended up getting a programming job out of college here in Tyler. Worked at that programming job for a while, moved to another role also here in Tyler. Spent a little bit of time unemployed, so you know that was tough during COVID. You have a little bit of a pay gap or a little bit of a job gap there that it gets a little, you know, extenuating circumstances extends, and it's kind of hard to find a job. And fortunately, like I said earlier, remote work gave me an amazing opportunity to be able to apply for things everywhere and not just focus local, because I don't know if you've tried to look for tech jobs locally in East Texas. We don't have a lot of software development firms, you know, hiring out here. The ones we do are great, but there's just not enough, I would say. You know, there's not a lot of opportunity there. So that's something I'd also like to see improved. But yeah, working remotely is a great opportunity for me. Working from home has really allowed me the flexibility I need to, you know, run from Congress, have the time to dedicate I need to it. Yeah.
So you want to see more tech opportunities here in East Texas, if I heard you correctly?
I want to see all sorts of more opportunities out here, but I think tech is definitely a sector that has room for improvement.
And how do you improve it?
By bringing in job creators, you know, meeting with the people who build the development firms, who build the offices, finding out why they're not here, finding out what it would take to get them here, and then working to meet those goals.
Now, the reason we're talking today is because on March 3rd, you did not garner 50% of the vote. Your challenger in this race, in this runoff, Yolanda Prince, garnered about 45%, while you had around 22% of the vote. What are you doing now to appeal to voters who may not have sided with you in March?
I think largely the thing, you know, that may have kept us lower in numbers is the fact that up until about a year ago, less than a year ago, I was a complete and total unknown factor for the entire district, all of East Texas, more or less. All of my organizing has been focused in Smith County, you know, where I'm, you know, my backyard, where I currently live. You know, start where you are, you know, start in your own backyard, and then, you know, expand from there. So we've had to. The amount of work and effort that we had to put in order to force the runoff in the first place was tremendous, and that was our goal for that. And I am tremendously proud of the work my campaign team has put into that, and all of our volunteers, all of our donors that have helped. That was on you guys, and so we're just keeping it up. The only thing that was holding us back was time, exposure. So, you know, since the runoff or since the primary, we've just didn't slow down at all, been at it, still been going out there. On socials, you know, now we're on TikTok, Dax for Congress, you know, Instagram and Facebook, Dax for Congress. You can find us. We're just doing everything we can to reach people. And I think that hard work's going to pay off in the runoff.
Let's talk immigration. Big topic on many voters' minds. On your website, you say that walls waste money and don't work. Why do you believe that?
I mean, because real world examples. We have drones now. We have already have a border that people tunnel under regularly. There's all the vulnerabilities that are in place that are being exploited right now aren't going to be fixed by just putting up a larger physical barrier. And we've seen that the people that even invested into the wall, some of the people they gave money to, ended up being complete and total boondoggles that were just made to exploit people and take their money. I think Steve Bannon may have actually got sued for that, and because he was just exploiting people and saying he was going to build a section wall that was funding the wall when it really wasn't. It was exploitive. It doesn't work. We do need a strong border, and we can do that through investing in modern solutions, investing in personnel. There's a bipartisan bill that was going through Congress that got shot down that both sides agreed to, that the Border Patrol agreed to, that would be effective. That'd be a great starting place, but building the wall was a silly idea.
Would you support, like fences, certain areas along the southern border or something like that?
I mean, absolutely. That's the way I understand it is, Matt. You have to have some sort of barrier there so that you can recognize there's a barrier. But the giant, Great Wall of America, that was more of a vanity project for Trump, was not the way to go about it.
How secure do you view the southern border today?
Right now?
Yeah.
Never been there. Don't know, can't say for myself, really without putting eyes on the ground. But I assume that our guys on the Border Patrol are doing their job and keeping us safe and protecting the border right now. I think that most of our problems with immigration currently rely domestically inward with ICE, obviously. They murdered 2 American citizens and got away with it. Just hook, line, and sinker, no investigation. The only investigation came for the surviving partner of one of them. The other that was murdered had his Second Amendment rights stripped in front of everybody in front of the country on video before he was murdered. No accountability for that. We have to start treating our neighbors, our friends, our families, the people we work with dignity and respect. And instead what's happened is this administration has made your skin color liability. It's made it probable cause for someone to pull you over and search you and ask for your papers. And that's not the America that I want to live in.
I do want to ask you, if you are elected, would you vote to impeach President Donald Trump if articles of impeachment are put forth against him?
Yes.
Under what constitutional grounds?
That he's violated high crimes and misdemeanors. That he's, like I said, he's led an assault on the American people via immigration issues. He started illegal wars in Iran. He's instituted the Epstein administration.
You think it's an illegal war?
Absolutely. I mean, there was no authorization from Congress. No fund. I mean, we're spending who knows untold amount of funding that I don't think was that I didn't approve it. But yeah, we've also instituted the Epstein administration. This admin is actively defending pedophiles, even if you believe that the president's innocent in it. Viewing the redacted files, seeing the redactions. We've got victims who have been exposed that wanted privacy when their perpetrators, their abusers, had their names redacted. That's covering for child abuse. That's our administration doing that at the direction of our president. If that's not impeachable, I don't know what is.
I mean, how likely is it you feel that he would be removed from Congress, though, because he's got to be convicted by the Senate?
Absolutely. If you present your case and evidence, then you've got a lot of senators who also go on record defending the Epstein administration. That's on them.
So you feel it would be worth it even if, he's not ultimately removed?
Accountability is always worth it.
You mentioned earlier about broadband internet access. If I heard you correctly, it sounded like you wanted to expand it. How do you go about doing so?
Investing and making sure also, when you say investments, you have to make sure that these aren't just given with no strings attached. I believe in the past we've given grants to broadband companies to expand, and that hasn't really been delivered on in certain areas. So we do have to make sure that these investments do come with strings, that we make sure that they are obligated to follow up on these things, and if they don't follow up, there's some kind of penalties attached. But yes, I do think broadband or fiber access, whatever we can, everything that we can do for the people, we should be able to do it.
Any particular strings or, I guess, regulation you'd want to see implemented in that sense for broadband?
I mean, whatever would help expand it, whatever opens up the funding for it. I'm not sure about specific regulation right now. As we said earlier, I am a software developer. I've never actually written law and policy, so, I rely and we've got great volunteers on our team that help us with that aspect of it. And so, yeah, that's something we can look into to get, some more specific policy thing to actually achieve this goal that I want to achieve.
Is there a specific, amount of money you think this would require to expand broadband, across the country, or even just in East Texas? I don't know if there's a specific part of the country you're looking at. I just want to get a better idea.
You know what? I actually don't know what the certain amount of money would be for that one. I don't want to spitball anything and be way too high or way too low, but I imagine whatever it is, it's something that would be within reason, obviously, but it is something that I think that would be a tremendous benefit, and it would absolutely be something, an infrastructure upgrade that would be worth it.
Let's talk affordability. Of course, a major topic on many voters' minds with prices rising on gas and groceries. How will you go about lowering costs for East Texans?
Well, first of all, we've wasted a lot of money on a war in Iran right now that we don't need to be wasting money on. I think first and foremost, I think addressing some of our foreign policy issues that we've been brought on by this admin is going to cut big time for oil prices, gas prices. We've created just this completely unnecessary situation with supply chain and increasing prices for that, which increases prices across the board for groceries. If gas prices go up, the cost of everything goes up because that affects shipping. So that would be one thing I think we could do about it first. Yeah.
So what specifically would you, just to get a better idea, what specifically would you like to do about, the war in Iran?
I think we just have to find a way to end it and get us out of there and get a return to, an agreement where we make sure, because, the president likes to say all the time, he doesn't care about American people. He cares about Iran not having nuclear weapons. He wants to fearmonger on that like it was ever actually a possibility that was going to be in our lifetimes, right? Because we'd already struck their facilities previously. And before that, we already had an agreement that he just tore up that was preventing them from developing things that allowed us to inspect it. So if we could get back to some sort of agreement where we can just make sure that, hey, whatever they're doing, if they're enriching for power purposes, but if they're enriching for weapon purposes, then we have to be able to find that and stop that. But the way that we're doing it right now, just going in guns blazing with the goals post changing every other week, trying to follow statements on Truth Social, you'd think the war has been won 3 separate times already, but we're still there spending hundreds of billions of dollars. It's a waste.
I guess I'll ask, what would you say to folks concerned that Iran could one day acquire a nuclear weapon and support this current conflict as a result of that?
That we just have to trust that we've seen. We already had agreements in place to show that they were not pursuing this, that they were doing everything the way that the regulations said. We tore up that agreement, gave them reason to possibly pursue it. Then we staged a few airstrikes on it and were declared mission success, that all of their enrichment capabilities had been eliminated, that that never again would they be able to pursue this. Well, so maybe that was a lie, maybe that wasn't a lie, but we could see the pictures, we've seen the destroyed facilities, and now suddenly we have to go in because they're developing again because we didn't do it right the first time. It's just, the whole thing just seems like someone trying to find excuses to do what he wants, in my opinion.
I do want to ask, we've talked about, broadband, we've talked about immigration, but just overall, what would you say are your biggest priorities if elected to the 1st Congressional District?
So some of my priorities that's, on my campaign material have been handed out saying big bold letters: healthcare, education, opportunity. I think healthcare is a right, and I think this country is way too prosperous to not treat it as such. I think healthcare has to include mental health care. I think that has to include reproductive health care. I think education is something that in Texas we're not focusing on enough. I think we're losing a lot of talent in our schools from not paying teachers enough, not respecting them enough, not just treating education the way it should be treated. And that's causing us to lose talent, which is going to affect us. It's going to be hard to see the effects right now, but down the road, that brain drain is going to really hurt us. And finally, kind of connected to that, opportunity. When people graduate here from high school or college, if you're talented, if you think you can make it big financially somewhere, what do? You're going to move to Dallas, you're going to move to Houston, you're going to move to Austin. I want to change that. People are growing up and they're leaving East Texas for greener pastures when I want those greener pastures to be right here in our own backyard. I think we've got a lot of potential that we're not reaching, and I think it's being held back by our current representation.
I do want to ask, because Tyler's been growing in terms of population like the rest.
Tyler's doing great. Rest of the district, not so much.
You don't feel the rest of the district is doing?
I've been driving around and seeing it. Our rural areas are suffering in a lot of areas. That just from neglect. I don't think people care about what their needs are right now.
What are the biggest ways you feel the rural areas in the 1st District are suffering?
Infrastructure. It feels so far behind. Even just comparing living in Tyler in the city and then just driving around out to other cities in East Texas, Nacogdoches, Texarkana, it just feels like feels like we're not investing, we're not treating it the way we should. That, like I said, we've got a brain drain that people leave the area because they think the opportunities are elsewhere when they should be here. Because we're not creating jobs here. We're not bringing in the job creators. We're not bringing in industry. We're just happy to produce all the great talent and export that elsewhere.
What would you like to see done regarding rural healthcare, if anything?
I think hospital access is going to be a very important aspect of rural healthcare. Right now in the district, we have healthcare deserts. If you have an emergency need, if something happens and you have to get to the hospital as fast as possible, there are people out there that live an hour away from the nearest hospital. That's an unacceptable aspect of living in a rural area that we have to address. We have to get hospitals, we have to get clinics, we have to get access for these people first and foremost.
And how do you go about doing that?
Investing in healthcare, building hospitals, just deciding what's worth it. Do we want to, bomb children overseas, or do we want to spend money building hospitals at home?
It's my understanding you're also looking to expand Medicaid. Why do you feel that's important?
I think it's abominable that America is the greatest country in the world, and we are. I really believe that we are the greatest. We're the best, but we don't treat our people like we're the best. The best country in the world should not be a place where you can be too poor to take care of yourself because you got sick or you got injured, got in a car accident, and hurt, not by no fault of your own, and suddenly you're not able to go to work, you're not able to go to the dairy farm. That's just something that we have to fix. I think that we can do it. I think it's an affordable option. I think that there's definitely methods to do it. There's a lot of different options that have already been presented in Congress. I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's going to take a lot of negotiating, but I think it's definitely something that, as the greatest people on the planet, we should be able to figure out.
Data centers. What are your thoughts on their development, and is there anything that should be done about them at the federal level?
I have heard a few people in the area pitch data centers to me as a solution to that job creation problem I talked about earlier. I disagree on that front. Data centers, there's a lot of misinformation being pumped out there to try to justify their continued expansion. Mostly they're not creating jobs. These facilities are by and large automated, and they're going to bring in people from out of town to staff them in most cases anyway, and the staff's going to be 10 or so less people. The construction jobs it brings, yes, but also not a lot of building there, not going to be a huge construction project, not going to really last very long, not bringing taxes into the area. It is draining the water supplies. It's taking the groundwater from our aquifers, and then when it recycles it into rivers which flow into the ocean. So it's taking the water out of that cycle where we need it in our ground and for our wells. It's also increasing electricity prices across the state. They were already going up. I know mine's just about doubled because of the winter storm we had a few years back and all the regulatory issues that came from that. And now we've got data centers coming in that are also putting a strain on an already strained grid, putting strain on people already having trouble affording their electric bills. I think that from a regulatory point of view, from federal perspective, we just need to do something to pause their construction, pause the expansion of it, because right now they're just coming up. It's almost too fast to deal with, right? The industry is expanding quicker than the law can accommodate for it, and I think we just have to get ahead of that and slow it down a little bit, because obviously you do have to have servers built somewhere, but we just have to make sure that they're being done right. They're not straining the communities they're being built on. They're being built in the right places and under the right conditions.
So there needs to be more laws, you feel, about data centers?
Specifically for data centers, I think I would be in favor of voting for something to slow down the production of those, because they're going next to neighborhoods. The light pollution is ruining the view for these people. The noise pollution, you don't think a data center would be that loud. Servers are loud, especially when you pile a whole bunch of them together in a big building. They're giant heat sinks. They affect the environment where they're built. There's just so many things that they're affecting that we don't fully know the ramifications of yet. And we don't want to be exposing our citizens to unknown dangers, unknown cautions to deal with during their day-to-day lives.
I do want to ask you, because there's been talk about AI data centers in particular. What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence? Do you view it as a net positive, a negative, somewhere in the middle? Talk to me about that.
AI is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for bad, it can be used for good. As a software developer, my office encourages us to use AI to help us with our job. If you're ever stuck on something, see if Copilot can handle it for you, see if it can correspond, get past something maybe you're stuck on. If I'm an expert in one language and not another language, they encourage us to use AI as a resource for that. A lot of my other fellow people that I know that work in the industry have that experience. On the other end, absolutely can be a kind of a net negative for things. We can see the way the AI just kind of harvests all this information on the internet without any real permission, and then takes all of that, conglomerates it, and starts creating its own work. So you can just ask it to recreate the work of another artist, copyright free, that that he didn't consent to giving that to. So there's a lot of fuzziness there. Sorry, I keep bumping the mic. There's a lot of fuzziness there with AI being used and violating our personal, what's the word for intellectual property, our intellectual property rights. No regard for that. It's being used to replace workers, and a lot of times, there's a lot of industries, a lot of companies right now that are firing people after getting great grants to create jobs somewhere, and now they're replacing these jobs with AI. That's not helping anybody. We don't need to be replacing jobs with AI. Also, because whenever you replace those jobs with AI, it's not at a level yet to do what people do in many of these situations. It's a downgrade from the consumer perspective. I don't want any product that I have to have more AI on it. If I buy a TV, I'm not going to say, ooh, I want the smart TV with all the AI possible. No, I just want a TV that shows me what's showing me. So I think the AI overall has its uses, sure, but there's also a lot of downsides to it. But it's a tool like any other. And it's also one of those things that's kind of a Pandora's box situation. You're not just going to make AI illegal because like there's language learning models, there's other variations of what actually is going on there. We shouldn't be just overreacting like that. But yeah, AI is a tool.
If you are elected, what is the first piece of legislation you plan on introducing? Do you have an idea what you would do first yet?
First, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with impeachment. I don't want to.
It's the first thing.
If we get the majority, that's going to be the first thing we have to handle before we can move on with the things that are actually going to, impact us in a more direct way, like healthcare. I would be most proud if I could be a part of a vote that brings a universal healthcare option to America.
So a single payer system?
Some kind of system. I think that would be beneficial. There's, like I said, there's a lot of options we could pursue. I think single payer would be a good one, but I'm open to, talking about the others as well.
If you do not end up winning this runoff, do you plan on endorsing in this race for the 1st Congressional District, and if so, who?
Yeah, of course, I'm going to endorse my Democratic opponent, Yolanda, against Moran. I'm currently serving as the vice chair for the Smith County Democratic Party. So, if she wins this runoff, one of our voter database experts. So, I'm going to be the one that's going to be running voter list, helping organize block walks, and trying to get all of our candidates up and down the ballot elected. That's what we do. We got to work together. We're all on the same team.
The May 26th runoff is coming up in just a couple of days, around a little less than 2 weeks from the time of this interview. Is there anything I did not ask that you would like to add?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. I will say, Dax for Congress. Follow us on socials. Instagram and Facebook's where we're most active. We're also on TikTok, Dax for Congress. Anything you can do to help, follow, like, share, subscribe, all of that. Huge benefit in today's society where social media is how so many people stay connected through each other. If you want to donate, you can donate. We always appreciate that. But if you can't, because we understand that things are tough right now for a lot of people, that's why everything's so stressed and why everyone's so looking for new options, because what we've got right now isn't working for us. But yeah, so just follow us online, give us the shares, the likes, let other people know about us, and most importantly, go vote.
Democratic candidate for the 1st Congressional District in Texas, Dax Alexander. Sir, we appreciate you coming in and being on the program today.
Thank y'all for having me.